Today I'd like to show you some tricks on how to make a glossy reflection on your logo. So I already started a logo project here. I actually used somebody else's logo. Maybe you recognize it. But I want to make an updated version of this that appears to be reflective, as if it's made out of a little pool of glass. So here I go. Looking at my layers right now, and I can see that this logo is made up of a bunch of different little pieces. And I can see that one of these pieces isn't part of the group of the rest of the logo. So I think the very first thing I'll do is make a new sublayer, and I'll separate out that piece that I don't want in the group. So I have a layer with just this group of stuff that's clumped together, and I have a separate layer for that other piece. I want to focus on this smaller piece right now because it's easier to work with to do this little trick. It's this leaf that's on top of the apple. In order to make a reflective kind of glassy look on there, we're going to first copy and paste that whole piece. I used Command C and Command V. You probably know that one already, right? The glassy effect that we're doing is going to be a gradient that has some transparency and is also a smaller shape that fits on top of the original shape. So I think that the first thing I'll do is just change the color so I can see it easily if I put it on top of or overlap this other piece. And then I'll start to modify this shape. It doesn't have a stroke. I'm just going to use my eraser tool. And the eraser tool, I'm going to take a chunk out of this whole shape. Yeah, just like that. So this is just a little piece of the original shape that I'm making the reflection for. And this one I'll move over the top of what I had before. Now, it could look a little bit like a reflection already, but I think that what we do next is going to help a whole bunch. I'm going to change the fill of our shape. And I think initially I'm just going to choose a really basic gradient. This isn't what we'll stay with because I'll modify this gradient. I like how it starts at white, but the end is also going to be white. A few different ways I could do this. And the main thing that's different from most gradients that you've done so far is we're changing the opacity on both sides of these. So it's white, but the opacity of the end is going to be very, very transparent. The other side, it's not 100%, but it's not as transparent as the other one. I think I'll go with 60%, and we'll try it. You see how right now you can see through one side, and then when we get to the end, you can see through it a lot more. And that's kind of the effect that we're going for. There's a few different things that we can do to make this even better, though. I'll go to my other gradient control. This is my gradient tool. And I think I'll change the angle of this so it fits a little closer to the shape that we started with. Maybe I'll go the opposite direction. What do you think? I'll make it go this way. This way, the most opaque part, or the least transparent part, is the closest to the end of that shape. So around the edges of the shape, it's initially almost the same color as the body of that, but there's a little bit of the part where it starts to creep and almost gets to white. And I think that looks kind of like a glassy reflection, especially if I look a little further away at it. So let's try to do the same thing for the rest of this logo. To make this work, we'll have to go into all those individual shapes, make sure they're all selected. I'm going to copy and paste these ones, and I think that I'll move them all up into a different layer there if I can. Okay, they're all in their own layer now. So these ones will go into Pathfinder and unite them to be one thing. So this one, in its own layer, I think I'll modify now. I'll put it right in front of that shape again, and I can modify it by taking away points, or like I did with the other one, I just ended up erasing lots. Let's go find the anchor point, not the handle. Minus tool, anchor. Getting rid of some of those anchor points. I'm still just modifying my original anchor points, and if you don't know how to modify your anchor points, I'd get better at that if I were you. So I'm kind of copying the same curve that I made on the first piece. Of course, my fill's not the same, so I'll see if I can go and use my eyedropper tool to just copy the fill from that one. Hey, that's pretty good. So look kind of like a reflective, glassy finish. Maybe I'll try just a slightly different fill that I already worked on. I could go in also and keep working with my eraser tool. I might just get rid of some more of the stuff around the outside, and sometimes that works too. Maybe I'll go dive a little deeper in there. I think that's pretty good for a glassy, reflective look on that one. For the amount of time I spent on it, your results may vary, but you should try something like this on your project. I also added some heavy white lines with a blur effect to add to the highlights on these reflections. Each of these will render as raster effects in your final project, so keep that in mind if that's a consideration.